Former dialysis nurse Connie Baker is back on the stand for a second day. Thompson says he was told it was here in the parking lot where someone walked up behind the victim and stabbed him in the throat. Do receive a ticket. You have 12 days to either make arrangements or pay up before a warrant is issued in your name. The VFW is allowing family members to come pick up the bricks that are being taken off of the original wall. The killer dragged himself across this yard and onto this porch, scratching at the back door after receiving several gunshot wounds. Texas state law requires all occupants in a vehicle wear a seatbelt. That one quick click. Dead trees lying on the forest floor, like the ones you see behind me, provide the perfect fuel for sparking and spreading wildfires. School officials say they're nervous about giving a test that they've never actually seen themselves and will turn on its open sign one last time on Friday before closing their doors for good. It's a place many Lufkinites say they'll miss.
From the beginning to the end, I felt that she was innocent, and I still feel that way.
Brian Bowling wasn't one of the 12 people who found Kimberly Sines guilty and sentenced the former nurse to life in prison. But as an alternate juror, Bowling sat in on all testimony in case he was needed. If he had been called to vote, he says he would have made a difference.
I don't believe that the state satisfied the burden of proof.
Prosecuting attorney Clyde Harrington says it was a job well done, underscored by the jury's verdict.
I was scared that we would not be able to present the facts of this case in a manner that they were understandable by jury.
Family members like the daughter of victim Opal Few are happy to move past this part of the tragedy.
I think the jury did a great job. I would not have wanted to be in their shoes under any means. I'm just grateful that the guilty verdict was reached. Grateful that she won't be allowed the opportunity to do it again to some other family.
The sentencing was fair. She got what was due unto her. She's of age and she's held accountable for what she does.
Sines' family declined to comment on the sentence. However, defense attorney Steve Taylor says life in prison is a fair decision.
We think that the jury worked very, very hard. They listened to 17 days of testimony, sat there without opening up their mouths. Had one day off, came back, deliberated over 14 hours in 2 days.
After the punishment was read, Sines returned to Angelina County Jail while her legal team is already starting the appeals process. In Lufkin, Alexis Spears, KTRE, East Texas News 9. When you see those flashing red lights and the guardrails come down at a railroad crossing, the law requires you to stop. Train authorities and local police are finding many motorists do not take heed, which can be deadly.
Some of the more common violations we see is vehicles stopping on the tracks, vehicles driving around the lower gate arms as the train approaches, school buses failing to stop at crossings, and also vehicles that are placarded with flammable or explosive liquids not stopping prior to going across the tracks. 12 Diboll police officers and DPS troopers were out looking for violators this morning in a special crackdown operation. Those caught breaking the law were issued a ticket.
This is not a scare tactic. It just really make public aware of what's going on in the surroundings. Give them a little reminder that, the crossing arms are there and they do have to stop.
Connor says it was especially important to raise train safety awareness following an accident that occurred last March that claimed the lives of 3 East Texans. The vehicle reportedly stopped or got stuck on the tracks when a train collided into the Jeep, killing all 3 occupants in the vehicle.
It's unfortunate that something like that happens, but it also makes you think a lot when something like that happens, makes you be a little bit more proactive toward the situation.
Nathan says it's easy to practice proper safety measures. Just look, listen, and live.
Look both ways before you cross the tracks, listen for the approach of a train, and if you do that, then you'll live.
In Diboll, Alexis Spears, KTRE, East Texas News 9. Eugene Hubbard stands in the road picking up the pieces. Debris from the accident that claimed the lives of his niece and nephew. Their 3 kids were life-flighted from the scene. The car was speeding south down Ellington Street when his niece lost control and hit a tree.
He was a nephew that everybody would want. My niece was exactly the same way. They was just like 2 peas in a pot, you might say.
The victims died less than 5 miles from their home. The county sheriff, Sheriff Johnson, reminds us all motors are at risk of crashing.
Anytime you get in a vehicle, you're subject to an accident. And most accidents happen just a short ways from your home.
The driver lost control of her vehicle and crashed into this tree. Reports say both she and her front seat passenger were not wearing seat belts.
Be sure and buckle up. Those seat belts are in there for a purpose, and they will certainly save your life.
Hubbard lost his mother last year and several relatives over the past 5 years.
It made me feel like God is just taking my family. Sometimes I wonder why, but they're together, so I accept. It's hard.
Now Hubbard holds on to his faith to make it through.
I would say that it's God's will.
In Center, Alexis Spears, KTRE, East Texas News 9.
It was real nostalgic for me.
William Minshew is making some of his last sandwich orders in his restaurant. Thompson's Deli and Grill is closing after more than 50 years of serving up all-American favorites. Customers like Angela Black are stopping by the Ellis Avenue Eatery to enjoy one more taste.
We thought we would come here today for one last burger.
A new building owner has plans for the space that don't include Thompson's.
Redo the building. He wants to do a lot of renovations. He also wants to, from what we understand, put a party room in.
Minshew and his wife Kathy have kept the eatery going for the last 2 years, serving up smiles with every bite.
It's worth the drive no matter really where you're at to come and have, they got good service and very good food.
The restaurant will turn on its open sign one last time on Friday before closing their doors for good. It's a place many Lufkinites say they'll miss.
Thompson's Grill is like an icon in this town, you know. I mean, everybody, you just never expect something like that to disappear.
The Minshews thought they were investing in the future when they took over, spending $27,000 in renovations. Their plan was to one day turn the eatery over to their 2 grandkids.
Our initial goal was to give them a place to work after school because that teaches a lot to kids.
However, without their lease being renewed, the Minshews say they will move on to other business opportunities.
It's not sour grapes.
Kathy Minshew says she'll never forget the people who stopped in.
Friendships I've made, money couldn't buy it anyway.
In Lufkin, Alexis Spears, KTRE, East Texas News 9. Forest officials are spreading flames in the Davy Crockett National Forest.
Every day's a burn day.
They say igniting prescribed burns are the best way to ward off uncontrolled wildfires like we saw last summer. Fire Management Officer Bobby Stiles and her team are burning 100 acres of Houston County.
We don't burn the overstory, we only burn the understory, and that's where the fuels that, if you have a wildfire, those are the fuels that are primarily going to burn. So we reduce what we call the 1 and 10 hour and 100 hour fuels. The prescribed fire removes those.
Forest officials say dead trees lying on the forest floor, like the ones you see behind me, provide the perfect fuel for sparking and spreading wildfires.
So by prescribed burning, you remove the fuel side, and so you won't have as many catastrophic wildfires.
Prescribed burning also helped with the eventual end to the Bering wildfire last summer.
It's when it hits areas that have been previously burned that it really helps the most, so the fuel loads are down.
The burn lines from the control burning 2 years prior to the wildfire ultimately contained the 22,000-acre blaze.
And you have to have 3 things to have a fire: fuel, oxygen, and heat. If you take away the fuel, you've taken away one of the legs of the fire triangle, and you're not going to have a fire.
So by removing elements that feed flames, officials hope to fend off future threats to the piney woods. In Houston County, Alexis Spears, KTRE, East Texas News 9.